All right, y'all. Good morning. It's Monday, right?
It is Monday.
Happy Monday. Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices, 860 WNOV, 106.5 FM. I'm Brian, community outreach organizer at Wisconsin Voices, here with my co-host. And hey, we ain't seen you in a minute. What's going
Yeah, I
on?
know. I'm back, right? Joe Dre, policy director for Wisconsin Voices. Happy to be back and with
Welcome
the
back.
revamped show. And we took a couple weeks off, and now we're back and we're ready to go. So
Let's get to it.
yeah, today we have our topic today. We're going to talk about healthcare a little bit. And our guest today is Robert Craig. He's the executive director of Citizens Action Wisconsin. Thank you, Robert, for being with us today and on Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices.
Great to be with you. Great to be in this studio. It's been a couple years.
Yeah. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself and about your organization and what you do and how you got involved.
So Citizen Action Wisconsin is a statewide organization. Our headquarters is in Milwaukee on Valete Street. And we're a membership organization where people come together in order to change our society for the good. Really, it's organized people that need to be the intermediary between the general public and making government responsive to us. So the most active members of the community come together, figuring out what our problems are and how we could address them, and developing strategies, people-based grassroots strategies in order to get them done. And we're especially well known for working on healthcare. We believe healthcare ought to be a fundamental right, but we have to take that in steps. We're getting all one step. And we work on other issues like economic justice, racial justice, and particularly it relates to the climate crisis, which is really escalating. But I know you ought to talk, Joe and Brian, about healthcare, but we have a long background in healthcare. And personally, I got interested in healthcare when I was working for a union that represents a lot of healthcare workers, SEIU. And I was state council director. And so working with nurses, nursing home workers, particularly CNAs, home health aides, folks like that, really began to understand how unjust our healthcare system is, not only to its workers and employees, but to the people it's supposed to help, average people. It's really become this commodified thing that's about wringing profit out, as much profit as possible for hospitals, big insurance companies, big pharma, and rather than doing what a system ought to be designed to do, that is guaranteeing everyone has the help they need to live a happy, fulfilling life.
Right. So can you explain a little bit about the current state of healthcare access in Wisconsin and the Milwaukee community, and what are some of the most pressing issues we face today?
So we're the only modern industrial country that doesn't have simply guaranteed healthcare for everyone. Okay, so we can say, oh, it's worse in Alabama or things like that, but let's face it, this is not normal, right? In other countries, it's a guarantee. So, and it's a patchwork of things we have. I mean, we have Medicare for seniors. We have Medicaid. We Badger Care in Wisconsin for lower income folks, but that's always politically contentious how far up the income ladder we're going to go. And the Trump folks are threatening to make massive cuts to the state to Medicaid programs, which would be Badger Care. So what we have now, we might not have if we don't win that fight, because they want to do that to fund big tax cuts for billionaires. And then we have an insurance system where, thanks to President Obama, there's a way for you to go on to the marketplace, the Affordable Care Act marketplace, and get coverage if you don't have good insurance at work with subsidies. The subsidies, by the way, will get much worse unless they're re-upped. So there's going to be a big increase in price for people there. But people who work for small employers, people who work in the service industry often don't have good health care. Even people who have good health care, in other words, they have the kind of jobs that provide you health coverage, that health coverage is becoming harder and harder to afford because of co-pays, deductibles, cost sharing, claims denials, which are rampant because the insurance industry is figuring out how it can pay as little as possible, right? And make it as hard for you as possible to get the claim that you have right to get fulfilled when you need medical care.
I'm saying that.
And so the result actually is that we did a survey with a national firm a couple of years ago in Wisconsin. Over half of people with insurance are not using their insurance because they're afraid they can't afford the bill. So even
Right,
though they're
right.
covered, even though it's reducing their salary, gets
Mhm.
really expensive for employers, they're still not using it.
Yeah, it's that copay, those copays and those, that 20% that the
Mhm.
insurance doesn't cover, that you're scared to go out there and get those major procedures or some of those, important things that you need to get done to make yourself well and live a thriving life.
Yeah, the insurance companies are, I guess, now really using the game against, it's really, like you said, it's more of a competition between the person that needs the service and the provider. It's like, hey, how can we, find a way to keep as much money in our pocket as possible
Right.
from all angles.
Yeah, and so it's about profits. It's
Yep.
not about health. And it's even a problem in Medicare because over half of Medicare now is so-called Medicare Advantage,
Mhm.
which is privatized Medicare. They're the
Mhm.
ones with all those ads from Joe Namath or Jimmy J.J. Walker
Mhm.
Yeah.
saying how you'll get all these extra benefits, but they don't tell you is you're dealing with an insurance company that will deny claims and will have a narrower network, so you can't get to the doctor you need or that you've worked with all your life. And so seniors, and I know we have a good senior audience on WNOV,
Mhm.
are a lot of them in Medicare Advantage are facing a ton of claims denials, and most of them are illegal. And most seniors don't know how to fight it, and therefore
Right.
they end up, getting debt loaded onto them in their
Mhm.
golden years. So it's a problem even in Medicare.
Right.
Mm.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, that's one of the shows I think we're going to have coming up, is we're going to talk about Social Security and Medicare and those sorts of things for our seniors. But what are some of the biggest barriers preventing people in Wisconsin and local Milwaukee area from receiving adequate health care? What are some of those barriers that they're trying to overcome?
So since we damage deliberately the manufacturing economy, the union manufacturing economy in Milwaukee that drew so many people, so many waves of immigrants to Milwaukee, including we were the last outpost of the Great Migration. So a lot of the
Mhm.
African Americans here in Milwaukee came for great union jobs, and the rug was pulled out from under them. And the
Mhm.
service jobs that have replaced them, including a lot of healthcare jobs, a lot of nurse aides, nurse assistants,
Mhm.
home health aides, don't have good insurance, let alone in fast food or other service sector economy. And so that's one of the problems, that we built up a system based on your employer providing coverage. And a lot of the ones who don't are the ones where people need it the most, right? Where they
Right.
can't, where they're not making the better salaries, the middle and upper middle income salaries. One is we have a very paltry Medicaid system, Badger Care. Wisconsin's one of 10 states that's refused to do Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
So we're leaving about 90,000 people out every year, and it costs us more money to do that than to do it. So we're paying more to cover fewer people just because the gerrymandered legislature is politically opposed to extending public health coverage, though we actually need a lot more public health coverage. So, and then I think it's just the cost of healthcare generally. What we've done in this country is that we have underinvested in public health investments, which keep people healthy.
Mm.
And so and Wisconsin's one of the worst states that way. So we don't invest in staying with people all their lives, because the cheapest thing for healthcare is for you to be healthy.
Right.
Okay, and healthy
Right.
as long as possible. And as you develop conditions, which happens when you age, you develop pre-existing conditions, right? As you age, then being aware of those and staying on top of them, right? But also living healthy life.
Mhm.
There are other countries, Costa Rica, for example, a country not nearly as wealthy as us, that has a higher life expectancy than we do, because they put most of their money into preventive care, primary care, and public health, and keeping people healthy all their lives. They don't need as many huge hospitals. So problem is we have sick care, is what some people call it. We wait till people are very sick. That's an expensive intervention. Then we have hospitals that are a huge business, have massive margins, massive endowments they've built up over the years. They're nonprofits in name only. They operate very much like for-profits. And they're planning themselves out in the suburbs where people have private pay. Private insurance pays a higher rate. They don't want mostly Badger Care and Medicaid folks, like in the city of Milwaukee. So they're abandoning the city of Milwaukee proper, particularly the African American and Latino communities, but they are also abandoning rural areas across the state. That's an example of where there's actually a common problem where we ought to have representatives of both groups working together, but that's not the way politics are working right now.
Exactly. Exactly. It's the same problems no matter where you go across the state, whether it's rural or in the inner city. You're still finding the lack of access to health, adequate health care. So yeah,
And we need more access. We don't need as much access as we have because we need fewer hospitals and more public health, more preventive care. But then when we have it, it ought to be available to everyone. And if you're a nonprofit, look, we have some of the worst racial health disparities in the country, maybe the worst by some. If you look at the 50 biggest metro areas, in other words, Black health outcomes versus white. So you'd think this is where these great charities that advertise on TV, tell us to raise money for them, would be going where there is the biggest health need. No, they're going where there's less health need, but they can make more profits. You can see, just like you see when you go out to the suburbs, brand new high schools, brand new athletic facilities, which you don't see in the city of Milwaukee.
New shopping outlets.
You see along the highway and other places, brand new, beautiful hospitals with atriums and everything else. And here, not only there aren't new ones, they're pulling services out and saying, "Oh, well, you just have to get there. You have to go out to New Berlin or Germantown. We have good services there."
Right. So, Brian, did you have anything? Go ahead.
No, I was looking at just he kind of segued into the next question. Far as what are the most common health issues that affect the the BIPOC, LGBTQ, Black, Latino, and low income communities, and what preventative measures can people take to avoid them, as you've seen, because you was already kind of leaning into that. So I think that was a good time for that question.
Yeah, if I'm giving individual advice and how to cope with the system, kind of like a life hack, right? That understanding that our commitment at Citizen Action Wisconsin is to bring people in to change the system, right? But you're still living with the system, so how do you approach it? It's really important to get a good primary care doctor who is focused on maintaining your health, right? And doesn't just give you prescriptions for everything so that they get you out of the office, not use the emergency room for care, not use urgent care, because they're just going to give you a prescription and they're not going to work. So really, and it's hard sometimes because there's a shortage of them, and is to get a relationship with a good primary care physician, get all the baseline tests, know what your issues are and know how to manage them, and know what lifestyle changes you need to make to help manage them. It's not only drugs. We take we take more drugs than we need to because people aren't being given good information on how they need to change their lifestyle to address a condition once they've been, say, diagnosed with diabetes or diagnosed with high blood pressure or any of those other chronic diseases. So I think that would be the most important thing. I mean, I could just say, exercise, eat healthier foods, but really, you should do it it'd be best if you do it in a consultation with a doctor. But there's no question that eating a lot of this processed food and fat food, which unfortunately we have food deserts, is often all that's easily available, inexpensive, say in central city areas or rural areas where their grocery store is the Dollar General, right? Which is exactly healthy food.
You see more people going to the store. I mean, going to the restaurants and choosing to go to the stores and grab the processed foods. I mean, I'll go to the grocery store and I'll see a cart full, sometimes 2 carts full of processed foods, no vegetables, and I'll try to intentionally make myself run to the to the green section first before I go play around with a pizza or a hot pocket or something stuffed with chicken, because you want to make sure that you got that flowing through your system, and those antioxidants and cutting down all that stuff that that brings inflammation, that brings high blood pressure. And so, excuse me, I
you're right.
was thinking about that.
And the sugars too, the amount of sugar that they pump into a lot of the foods today. I mean, it's just detrimental to a lot of folks' health.
Well, you're being manipulated, just as the healthcare industry is set up to take money, extract money from you. The food industry is chemically engineered these foods to be irresistible, to take advantage of what it is, as we evolve, that would be really appealing to us, and then make it something that nature would never create. Right. And so there's a reason you can't stop eating whatever it is, the potato chip or anything else. So in a way, they're manipulating you. So in a broken healthcare system, in many ways it's broken, you need to look out for yourself and your family, right? So fruits and vegetables, anything with antioxidants, you're right, salmon, avocados are very
Mhm.
good, a whole lot there, but
Mhm.
this is all easily findable if you look up things such as the best diets, right? They're all the diets that are more plant-based, more focused on very lean meats, or meats that provide healthy fats like
Mhm.
salmon or
Mhm.
tuna,
Mhm.
and all of that. So, and also a lot of protein from vegetables like beans, for example, are extremely good for you,
Yeah,
actually.
big time. Yeah.
Now, I've caught myself recently at the grocery store turning the product over and reading the ingredients that are in it.
Oh,
And I've been trying to find the things with the least amount,
That's
Yeah.
right.
or that, with something that, it's the regular stuff that I can understand. And when it has a word that's about 18 letters long that I have never seen before in my life, I try to steer clear of it. Is that something that you
Yeah.
recommend as well?
Oh, absolutely. So, not that I'm here to advertise for any company,
Right.
but if you're looking at like these energy bars, a lot of them
Mhm.
actually are like cookies. If you really look
Yeah.
at the ingredients, right, and they're sold as health food, but there are some that are way better. Like there's something called the RX bar,
Mhm.
which is literally just like 3 or 4 ingredients. It's literally like 2 eggs, 3 dates, this many almonds, and they come in different flavors, but they're just a couple natural ingredients, nothing artificial whatsoever, and they actually taste good. But so you can really shop even for there's a lot of fake health food out there
Right.
that's not
Oh, big
really
time.
very healthy with grains. White bread really is just surges sugar and glucose into you, and is digested much too quickly. So whole grain is very important, and actual whole grain. Look at the ingredients. Make sure the
Right.
first ingredient is whole wheat. Sprouted wheat's even better. So I didn't know we were to a health food show, but they're related. You see,
Yeah.
healthcare is
It's all
holistic,
important. Big
right?
time. Yeah.
And people's mental health and well-being and taking care of themselves. That's all important too. We're not just physical bodies.
Mhm.
Our minds are part of our bodies, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with making sure that people are aware of what you should be, intake, whether it's some type of, important root, or if it's a capsule that is beneficial to the body. So, a lot of people I've seen, like you said, trying to practice that and put that as more of into the habit, especially now that the blood pressure is coming up a lot lately.
Mhm.
I've been hearing a lot between family members and friends. I've been hearing, so a lot of people are trying to watch their blood pressure because that quick you can go into a space of almost having
Right.
a stroke. You don't even know.
Well, I appreciate that because it's our diet is where it starts
Yeah.
with what we put into our body. That's really where I think the healthcare discussion begins is by what we put into our body. What kind of
Mhm.
food are we eating? What kind of drinks are we drinking?
Yep.
And then that kind of then you get into the exercise and the mobility and then all that other stuff. But to me, am I right there, Robert? With that, having that diet and that proper diet is the first step in taking care of your
And
whole
people
body.
would get that information more in countries with better public health systems. They're having
Mhm.
regular interactions with health nurses, health professionals, paraprofessionals that are giving them that information. And it's not that people are brought up on certain foods they love, right? It's not that you can never eat them. I'm not saying you have to skip the family barbecue, right?
Right.
It's just if you eat well most of the time, you got some room there for that barbecue out at the park that your family always does in July or August, right?
Exactly. What are some other little steps that folks could take to help better their health, their overall health as well?
Well, I think that it is having a good primary care physician, and one that deals with your body holistically. Doesn't just immediately think about a prescription, right, to get
Yeah.
rid of a pain. Tries to say, well, where is that? Where is it going
Mhm.
from? And there's a role for specialists, but only when a good primary care doctor is deciding, okay, we really need to get this checked out and make sure. But you want to get all the diagnostic tests regularly, have a regular checkup,
Mhm.
all of that. But that's the most important thing, not just waiting till you can't take the pain anymore and going to urgent care. And then they're just giving you some drugs, right? Some
Mhm.
painkiller, which doesn't get to the underlying problem at
Right.
all, right?
Right.
It depends what it is. With back pain is something, a lot of people have back pain
Mhm.
that you can manage. It's a pain in the neck, but if you're put on a good regimen, you can make it way better. In fact, maybe even make it disappear. If you
Mhm.
don't, then you end up surgery is both hit and miss, expensive and painful, right? If you're
Absolutely.
with a back, so you want to like take care of that, all of that stuff
Mhm.
early. But we all have different predispositions to different issues, and you don't know. It's like you don't know what's going to go wrong in your car. It's kind of like potluck, right?
Yeah. That just the genetic code goes back. Something that is going on in your body may go back 3-4 grandparents ago, and you don't even know that that is floating through. So it's the beautiful thing about life, huh? It just throws you all
But-
types of curveballs.
Right.
Part of it is we have people who don't get the health care they need, so we need to change the system.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so we're trying to get Badger Care expansion
Mhm.
in the state budget. Governor Evers did put it in his budget again. But we've been fighting for it for 10 years, and they've been
Mhm.
spending more money to cover fewer people.
Mhm.
We need to prevent. What is in the Republican at the national level budget instructions, the framework they passed, is to cut $880 billion out of Medicaid. That means throwing tons of people off the rolls. And Medicaid covers a fifth of all people's health care, almost half of childbirths, for example, almost all a huge percentage of long-term care for seniors and people with disabilities. It's just going to be horrendous in order to fund $4.5 trillion in tax cuts for the richest Americans. I mean, it is the most unpopular thing imaginable. We've got to, we can prevent them just like we prevented them from repealing the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. They can be beaten on this, and they're worried about this because members of Congress in Wisconsin Republicans who voted for that are denying they voted for it.
Mhm.
They're going along on the lie saying, well, it doesn't say Medicaid cuts. Well, the way the instructions are written as to where they have to come from in the budget, they can only come from Medicaid or Medicare, which would be equally bad. But they're probably we think we're going after Medicaid. And so that's where we're stuck right now,
Mhm.
is that we can beat them at this if enough people know about it and enough people get active. We can also expand healthcare access in Wisconsin in the state budget that's being debated now between now and the spring.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Brian, I think
good to know.
we've reached our first break.
Yeah, it's about that time then, huh?
It is.
Let's go ahead and take that break then, Joe. Hey, I like this conversation. It's deep. I hope everybody has been writing things down. If you're into it, we are on Be a Voice Radio, WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM with Robert Craig from Citizens Action Wisconsin. We'll be right back.
Remembering what we stand for. At Wisconsin Voices, we remember what we stand for. Check out our movement dedicated to empowering citizens and shaping the future. Engage with us on our website, social media, and podcast to make a difference. Visit wisconsinvoices.org. Explore our events calendar, like and subscribe to us on social media. Listen to recent podcasts and radio, and subscribe to our email and newsletter. Amplify your voice and be a voice today.
You're listening to Wisconsin Voices Be a Voice Radio. Follow us at BAWI Voice and learn more at wisconsinvoices.org.
Wisconsin Voices' 3 pillars are protecting democracy. Your vote is your voice. Wisconsin Voices works to protect democracy in Wisconsin by fighting voter suppression, promoting voting rights, and ensuring fair elections for all. Teaching advocacy. Teaching advocacy empowers and educates advocates in Wisconsin by offering training, resources, and support to enhance their skills, fostering a more informed and effective advocacy community for social and economic change. Building community. Wisconsin Voices builds strong communities for a healthy democracy by collaborating with diverse partners, creating networks for positive change, and fostering a sense of belonging and common purpose. Learn more about Wisconsin Voices by going to wisconsinvoices.org. Learn more about what our partners are doing by visiting the events calendar. Listen to recent episodes by going to our podcast and radio. Get involved today.
860 AM, 106.5 FM. WNOV, The Voice.
All right, we are back. We are back with We are Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices. Let me get this right. It is Monday.
Get it together.
My first
Don't
show
it?
back in a while. But yeah, if anyone has a question for the panel or anybody here today, the number is 414-444-5250. Go ahead and give us a call, and we'll try to answer any of your questions. You have a comment. We're here with Robert Craig, Executive Director of Citizens Action Wisconsin. We're having a great discussion about healthcare. Just continuing the conversation a little bit. One of the most, I think, in our face things right now as far as politically goes is the Supreme Court race that's going on here in Wisconsin. Just had the debate last week, and we kind of got to see both the candidates. Can you talk a little bit about how important that race is to healthcare and the healthcare battle in the state of Wisconsin?
Yeah, so obviously we're in a weird situation where big money races determine ideological control of the court, and it means dramatically different court decisions. It's not like nuances between judicial philosophies here. It's become unfortunately very much a partisan thing, and it really started with the business community, Chamber of Commerce nationally in this state, deciding they want to take over the court so that they would always rule with big corporations. And so what that means is the stakes are, we know some of the big stakes that are in the ads, right? Now, I don't mean the ads about crime, because Supreme Court justices do not sit there and decide what sentences should be for various kind of offenders. So those ads are badly misleading, okay? And it's each side throwing mud at the other side. But it could be the same ads, except flip out the names, right? Pretty much. But we know that reproductive rights are very much on the ballot, because Susan Crawford would be much more likely to defend them under the law, and Schimmel, former Attorney General Schimmel, has before articulated support for the 1849 law, which is a draconian ban on abortion, no matter what the effect on life of the mother, or rape, incest, any of the other things that people think, safeguards that people need to be in there. So that's a big healthcare impact. But I think there's also under the radar a lot of health impact, as when you have medical malpractice takes place, when there's a big problem with the hospital injuring you or not, or damaging you financially, or insurance company or pharmaceutical company, that with a conservative control of the court, they're more likely to side with big corporations against average people. Now, you can't guarantee that they wouldn't come out the same place in an individual case. It's about individual cases. More of a question of, is there predisposition to simply side with the powerful big corporations? There's a predisposition to give everyone their day in court and adjudicate cases fairly. That's really the difference.
Okay. Yeah, great. So how can local residents advocate for better healthcare services?
Well, I think we have to change the system, that there's limits to what you can do, like begging the hospital to open up more clinics in underserved areas, right? They're going to do, in many ways, power, as Frederick Douglass says, power gives up nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. You have to build the power to make them act differently, right? So it has to do with people coming together, like Citizens Action Wisconsin. We're a group that organizes on healthcare. We have a chapter system called Organizing Cooperatives, and our organizing cooperative in north side of Milwaukee is called Northside Rising. And our organizer working on healthcare, Melitha Jones, is working with people who want to improve and change the system, to change the laws, particularly at the state level, and how we can influence the federal level. So, for example, hospitals right now, they used to have up to the 1980s a rate review commission that determined whether what they charge is fair. The Hospital Association, which is the most powerful lobby in Madison, people don't realize this, the Hospital Association is the #1 spender on lobbying in the state capitol. Wow. They got it repealed. They said it wasn't necessary, that their competition would control the prices. The prices have been double-digit inflation year after year now for 40 years. That's what made it unaffordable. So we need to restore, there'll be legislation drafted right now, a rate review commission. They also used to have to get new capacity, like whole new facilities, new testing capacity approved by the state to make sure that it was actually needed. And so building new hospitals that aren't needed in the suburbs to get more profit is not needed, but there's more needed care in, say, the central city and north side of Milwaukee. That would be approved. Places like New York State have those kind of laws, and they got them repealed in the 80s. The Hospital Association did in Wisconsin. Our organization, CIS National Wisconsin, is 40 years old. In the 80s, we worked hard to try to prevent the repealing of both those laws and lost to the Hospital Association. But there'll be bills on both of those, for example. And by the way, when they build an extra test capacity that's not really necessary, very expensive stuff, then we're forced to pay for it in the price of healthcare, in insurance premiums, the cost of insurance to your employer. So we pay for excess capacity that they just want to compete with the other big healthcare systems in the city or in the state. And so we need to do things of that variety. We need to, we have a bill that, in fact, LaTanya Johnson's been the Senate sponsor for a couple cycles. We're looking for a new assembly sponsor because the assembly person left office who was the sponsor, called a Badger Care Public Option Bill that would expand Badger Care even further than regular Badger Care expansion, would open it up to all small businesses. And that would help a lot of communities to have small employers that can't afford health insurance, and also would allow anyone to buy into Badger Care instead of private insurance on the Affordable Care Act marketplace, and then not be dealing with the good thing about public health coverage like Badger Care. It's not based on claims denials and has very, very low cost sharing, copays and deductibles. They're not big like private insurance. So a lot of people would choose to buy that or get into Badger Care if they could. And so that bill would do a lot. So to get involved with other people working on those issues and get your legislators to fight for them, your state assembly people and your state senators and the governor, ultimately, who has to exercise his power, starting with the use of his veto power more robustly than he has.
Awesome.
All right, I like that. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Got anything else, Brian?
Oh, for me, man, I was actually, we had a couple people just listening. I was trying to see if they had any questions about insurance, but it looked like at the moment it looks like we're all good on my end. I am, like you said, I do appreciate you going into detail about the preventative health care, or just even just this last piece about getting people more involved. And again, this is why Wisconsin Voices Be a Voice Radio is so important, because letting people know where the focal point should be. So I'm good on my end. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, let me in response to the voices part, Brian, let me just say, and nice title to the show,
Throw that in real quick.
What we find that's really effective, because when I say get involved, join a group like CIS National Wisconsin, it might be like, I don't have that much time. I have to, I trying to keep rent paid, heat paid. Heat is way too expensive. That's another topic we work on.
It's another show.
Frankly, people's own personal healthcare stories, or of themselves, their friends, their families, that is what moves people more than facts. We got people, including myself, that can rattle off statistics, but that is you need that, but that's far less persuasive. And not just the people think that the stories we need are ones like that you would see in the newspaper. This person had, this kind of horrible cancer, and the insurance company pulled the plug on them, or what. Those are actually, those are important to lean into as well. But what people tend to do in those kind of cases is to try to fix the person. They say, okay, well, we need to get a GoFundMe and help this person, right? This is terrible, or what's happening to their child, or what have you. It's the more mundane ones. Like I can't get my insulin because they've raised the price so much, and so I'm having to skip insulin doses, and I'm worried that I'm going to have a real health setback because I have diabetes and I need insulin. And of course, insulin, it's not a new drug; it's been around forever. It's just insurance, big pharmaceutical companies figuring out how to get a monopoly and then jack up the price because they can, right? So, but stories about that is what drives everything. So we just need people to be involved enough to share their own experiences, their friend networks, their families, because the way humans think is around. How do you explain how your day is going? You tell a story, basically, right? That's how we relate to things and process information. So people need to see, particularly decision makers, what their constituents are really going through to understand the magnitude of what we need to do to fight back the power in the state capital of the hospitals, the insurance companies, and the pharmaceutical companies. Because if we don't do that, then legislators only hear from those lobbyists who are at their door every day, all the time, right?
Mhm.
It's like the voice of their own constituents can get down to a whisper if there
Right.
aren't people involved and talking to them, you only have real power if you come together. Your voice is there if you're unifying with other voices. Your voice standing on the street corner alone is not going to do very much.
Right. And is that kind of your call to other organizations as well, other nonprofit organizations that maybe out there fighting for better healthcare system or fighting for change? Is that kind of your message to them, is to unify, organize, and come together to fight the powers that be?
Yeah, and I don't want to. There's a lot of good work going on, so I'm not trying to depreciate anything, but I'm saying that our connectedness to each other, people being involved directly, personally in these in this sort of work, has declined over the last decades. There's very good research on this. There's a fancy word for it called social capital. So social capital's declined, and that is partly what's led to the huge economic interest just dominating, right? And so a lot of groups like ours in the organizing field are really leaning into the fundamentals of organizing. That is really focusing on getting more people involved and developing their skills to influence the system. We have organizers, we have staff, but it can't all be, we don't have enough staff and organizers if we just tried to change it ourselves, to change much of anything. But with a whole lot of other people involved, we could move mountains. And so that's where we are. The only way to save democracy is to lean into what is the heart of democracy, the soul of democracy, and that is voluntary groups of people getting together to look at problems, decide what the big concern is, and work to change it, build the power to change it with other like-minded people. And that's also between organizations. No one organization is going to be strong enough doing their own.
Right.
So you need coalitions. And I know Wisconsin Voices is also about bringing a lot of groups of people together.
Right.
But there's a role for groups that just have some policy folks.
Yeah.
But that isn't that, and we need that kind of expertise. But we can't just win with expertise, and increasingly we can't just win with lawsuits. Right. The other side is figured out by rigging the courts to how to outgun us with the number of lawyers they can hire. Right. Ultimately, blocking and tackling in democracy, which has to be a participatory sport, not a spectator sport, is people coming together and working in common cause together.
So
I agree.
A lot of people are maybe down or feel a little defeated, after the last election, or, with the way things are going in our country and throughout the state. What are some of those things that give you optimism each day and make you wake up and say, you know what, this is what drives me to do what I do every day and show up for work and do the best job that I can?
I guess the realization that it's happened before and it's the only way. And in recent history, there have been major mass mobilizations. I mean, the first Trump administration, there was just, starting with the Women's March, major mobilizations that prevented them from delivering their top priority, repealing Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. And so we, in the town hall meetings we're seeing where congressional Republicans that voted for budget instructions that will force hundreds of billions of dollars in cuts in Medicaid being mobbed at their own town halls, and then having to lie and say that these are paid protesters, bust in when they were actually talking to their own constituents, right? So that just shows you the power of average people when people will do it. But it's hard work. We also need to understand expectations. Our democracy has atrophied a lot. So we can't promise people we all get organized, we have some marches, and then everything's going to be great. It's a longer process than that. So we got to be willing to play the long game. But we got to have people don't stay involved unless they have, victories. So we need to understand what a victory would be, right? We do not get guaranteed health care for all by preventing these horrendous Medicaid cuts, but it could be the start of that. Obviously, we're even further behind if they're able to cut Medicaid and our Badger Care system in Wisconsin. But then we have aspirations that go beyond that, because we still have a healthcare system that serves primarily private profit and not the health of average people. And what we like to say in our trainings is that this isn't systems do what they're designed to do. This is a fundamental concept in systems theory. So if a system is producing profit and not health, then that's what it's designed to do, actually. And that tells you who designed and controls the system. And so you need to change that. But in other words, rather than that being a glitch, it's not a glitch. It's the design, actually.
Awesome.
Yeah. No glitch like that. That's a major glitch.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But you'll see that when you see response to problems. Like there was a huge set of hospital closures in Northwest Wisconsin last year. And people are offering all this. Maybe we just need to get some university experts together with the Chamber of Commerce and we'll discover solutions. And this is some hard thing to figure out. No, the hospitals are making tons of profits and they decided to not provide the care people need most: primary care, substance use treatment, mental health. That isn't as profitable. That this is literally about profit. This isn't something that's hard unless you're trying to avoid looking at the system and who really controls it and what their actual motives and self-interests are. So you see, when you read the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, you'll see all sorts of problems that are simple described as complicated. We've appointed a task force to figure out why people's utility bills are so high, right? Well, no, we know why, because we have a utility monopoly. We Energies that is profiting as much as possible, and there's nowhere else to go. And denying people, energy conservation measures, rooftop solar, all the things that would lower their energy costs, right? And trying to build brand new gas power plants that are going to be highly profitable for them and that we're going to be paying for 40 years.
Right. Wow.
So you can see it's not a complicated problem. It's a simple problem. It's complicated if you refuse to look at who's behind it, who has the power, and what their self-interest is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real.
Makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Well, thank you so much, Robert. We appreciate you being a guest on Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices. Definitely come back and see us again sometime. But we're going to go to a break real quick. This is Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Remembering what we stand for. At Wisconsin Voices, we remember what we stand for. Check out our movement dedicated to empowering citizens and shaping the future. Engage with us on our website, social media, and podcast to make a difference. Visit wisconsinvoices.org. Explore our events calendar, like and subscribe to us on social media. Listen to recent podcasts and radio, and subscribe to our email and newsletter. Amplify your voice and be a voice today.
Hey Milwaukee, tune in to Be a Voice Radio, discussing the latest local and national community and civic topics that matter to you the most. Every Monday and Tuesday at 11 a.m. on 860 WNOV and 106.5 FM.
You're listening to Wisconsin Voices, Be a Voice Radio. Follow us at BAWI Voice and learn more at wisconsinvoices.org.
860 AM 106.5 FM. WNOV, The Voice.
We're back
Be a Voice Radio
with Wisconsin Voices on a Monday.
WNOV 106.5.
I guess we got a caller. Let's go ahead. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello, folks. How you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. That last thing you spoke about with the plant that the energy company is trying to build, that would bring prices down or at least slow any inflationary impact for prices to go up because you need more supply relative to a stable or increasing consumption. So the only way to get prices down is to increase supply. It's just a basic law of nature. And profit means doing better. It's just a basic concept. You are profiting on this radio station. Your agency, your institution earns thousands of dollars of nonprofit payment. So each individual in the institution is getting paid a salary. Your institution, I looked it up, the two top people earn about $100,000 a year in various cash and benefits. So you guys are profiting from this company that you have this program on regularly every week or so. So profit is not evil. It means I'm faring better. That's what profit means. It's a mutual advantage. It's mutual symbiosis. There's no war between profit and life. Life, you're either doing better or you're not doing better. You're either breaking even or you're doing better. You have to conserve and you have to grow. Laws of nature are not you can't overrule laws of nature just because you want to pretend that something doesn't cost something. Just because you can say you can tax some rich guy, that's not going to pay for everything. You have to actually make choices. And it doesn't mean cutting anything. It doesn't mean cutting anything that you want. Profit means faring better, literally. Faring better, forward, farther from fear. It's a framework for faring forward, farther than previously fearful framework. You want to fare better. That's what profit literally means. To fare better, to do better. It's having a common denominator, capital head. That's where the word capital comes from. Cattle head. So now you have a measure. You have to have a common denominator. That's where everybody's pain and pleasure is measurable, and that is denominated in a common denominator, capital. It's the common denominator is a commodity, money. You need a yardstick to measure how many inputs of whatever it is, healthcare, stainless steel, needles, fentanyl, orange juice, whatever you got in that hospital, the cleaning solutions, you got to have all of this stuff mined from the earth. Everything has a cost. That means you have to sacrifice something to get something else. Everything is always an exchange between something you want a little less for something you want a little more of. So there's always a trade-off. There's no perfect solution, but you want more physical capital, better, just like your computer gets better every several months. You can your computer adds your telephone. You have to let it do its thing, and it adds all kind of new power. Like the computers when we went to the moon a half a century ago, there were a whole room full of computers that can now fit into a little tiny chip in your phone, and every few months it gets better and better. So that's the way capitalism works. The progressive capital formation means better and better technology with better and better usage, with less and less consumption, and better growth of opportunity. More supply of energy, more supply of hospital equipment. You invested it in your pension. If you have a pension, that's where it goes. Whatever those benefits that your agency has, those non-cash benefits that a guy in a nonprofit gets in his little pension, that goes into the capital markets, that grows the production and the harvesting of the iron that turns into steel, that turns into stainless steel. So you have your needles and your little examination equipment, your little things that can.
And I agree. I totally agree with it. Like you said, things do have to be, mined and profits, but a lot of profits and a lot of companies have made a lot of profit, have made it on the backs of a lot of people that were never able to see the benefits. The companies at the top made the profit, but nobody in the middle got any type of rewards, any type of benefits from themselves. It's always people at the top. But we had to go to our next topic. Thanks for calling in, though. We appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Appreciate the comment.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah.
Lot to digest there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, big time. Big time.
Yeah. What a great conversation though today, about healthcare. It's really, really important. I feel it's really one of those issues that's out there on the forefront that we see every day, that we deal with. If we don't deal with now, we're going to deal with at some point in our lifetime.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a really good conversation, Brian. Any thoughts?
Oh, I think it's highly important. I mean, I got family, friends, close loved ones that, you hear the changes in a policy or some insurance, or some way that the insurance company is trying to fight back on, some type of claim of, and, you might have even seen something small in your end, you go and you like, oh, I thought they was paying a little bit more. in that, okay, cool. 60
that's
bucks
happened to
up,
me a few times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, give you
yeah.
any like, hold up, wait, I
But
owe
then,
something
then
on this?
and then a lot of times when you go through your insurance policy, it's like reading Latin,
Mhm.
trying to actually figure out what your benefits are and what some of those things are. In your policy, what's covered, why was this not covered, why was that covered, and then you try to call and you're on hold for an hour or two just to get an answer for a simple question as to why was this denied, or why did you only pay 20% of this and not the whole thing, or whatever. So yeah, there's a lot of problems out there.
No, it is. No, I
Yeah.
totally agree. You see it from a lot of angles. So I definitely think. Oh, we got another caller.
Do we got another caller?
It looks
Jerry?
like we got another caller.
Looks like we do.
Yeah. All right. Hey, caller. Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices.
Good. What's going on? Good afternoon. How are you all doing?
Doing pretty
Doing
good.
well, thank you.
Okay. Well, I have a topic that most people, I don't know if they do or don't, want to get this done. And I have one coming up. It's colonoscopies. No one, I hate getting my colonoscopy, but if you don't do it right, you gotta get it done. I get it done anyway. And who wants to drink that the prep, which if you don't do that right, which something happened with myself, and I have to redo the whole thing. So but it's your life if you don't, because colon cancer is really a deadly cancer. When I know that my sister-in-law died from that, and she didn't have to. She just didn't have to. It can be prevented. Even if you mess up on the prep, they tell you should have to come back, go back and do it, because our dear friend, the Black Panther, come on, you guys help me out with his name.
King Rick. Rick.
Yes. Our actor that died of it.
Oh, you said Black Panther, the real Black Panther. Yeah. Mr.
Yes.
I can't think of his name. Yeah, I know you're talking about. I'm sorry, I can't think of the brother's name right now.
Me either. I mean, I'm probably young. Well, you're younger than me, but the thing is that I asked the question because my husband had his, and he has some issues with the prep. Well, what he got. Right. And so the drinking of this stuff is so yucky, but you deal with it. And you just have to do what the doctors tell you to do, and get it done over with, but your life is being spared. And the radiologist, and I just say that every 4 years, every 5 years, every 10 years, whatever they tell you to do, get that colonoscopy. Yep. It is important. That's one of the health ailments that people just don't get.
Yeah, you're right.
Absolutely right.
Appreciate that.
Those preventative tests are so important, and I think that's something that Robert was trying to discuss as well, is getting those paid for. Sometimes those things aren't covered by insurance, or maybe you don't have insurance, and they can be really expensive, like mammograms, colonoscopies, the procedures like that that are so vital into preventing diseases like colon cancer or breast cancer.
Yeah, I actually went through that, man, with the colonoscopy. That is true. With the prep, it's nasty.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. But if you do it right, because so you can really chase it with something. So you can.
They have flavored ones now too. I mean, that doesn't make it much better.
Yeah, but if you
bubble gum,
bubble guts, more bubble guts. But all you have to do is drink it and then don't eat anything. Because so you can drink
that's
water.
Where people break out. People have, it's that discipline, man. It's that getting in the house. It's that whole, people have this what's that one they should say, the obsession with that oral fixation. Sometimes you gotta just put something in your mouth. People be going around the house, just gotta put, eating potato chips and or something. They just gotta have something in the house, whether it's a cigarette or whatever, a toothpick, something. You gotta have something, and some people it's snacks and chicken nuggets and they gotta go for a colonoscopy and they forget that, I didn't ate
I can't
Italian beef.
Oh my!
My wife then came in with that Italian beef and Portillo's after that comedy show, and I done took this colonoscopy drink. You know, we got to do it like we're supposed to do on Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices. Yeah.
But no, that's good stuff.
I like that. It's good. It is good though,
it is.
because my auntie was just talking about it last night though. She was just mentioning, like, she was talking to one of my other uncles about just the colonoscopy. Like, yeah, go get it. You already know who you are down there in South Carolina, sir.
Yeah,
Get
and
that
I'm
colonoscopy.
actually glad that I went and got mine done, because they found a little small polyp. It wasn't cancerous, but they was able to actually find it and remove it, so I don't have to go back. I think mine is 10 years.
Okay.
But it was cool to actually, get it done. Do the prep work
and now they do the non-invasive one, right?
Yeah.
Man.
So what they did was they went in there with a camera.
That's good.
And found a little small joint, which was cool, and they removed it. I didn't feel anything. So I was in and out. And again, it's just something to know what's going on, because a lot of us, we don't go to the doctor.
So we're hurt.
We feel like a little pain and be like, oh, that's just a little something, and that's really like the start of something.
Yeah.
And we ignore it a lot, but I'm glad I went.
45 years old is when you should have your first colonoscopy. So anybody 45 or older, then it's recommended every 10 years after that, or whatever your doctor says. But 45 years old, that's when you just need to start looking at that.
Look, I remember watching Usher saying he went and got one at like 40, and it was like a big deal. Look, if you feeling like you can't get it, look, people going out here getting them proactively trying to get them. So make sure you're getting your colon checked, folks.
Hey man, right quickly, Joe, before you guys wrap up, you spoke to it earlier. New lineup, new structure, if you will, new format with the show. Can you give us some kind of insight of what that looks like going forward?
Yeah. We have a bunch of great guests that we're scheduling out ahead. Tomorrow we're going to talk about prison reform. We have a couple of great guests coming on that have some experience and have worked in the community on those issues. So definitely tune back in tomorrow at 11 o'clock, and we'll be right back here with the same great content we always do.
Mr. Brian Sanders and Joe Dre.
Yes, sir.
Wisconsin Voices, Be a Voice. Yeah. Wrap us up, Joe.
All right.
You got to get us out of here.
All right. That's it. That's it.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and you're on Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin
Brian
Voices,
will do it right.
WNOV 860 106.5. We'll see y'all tomorrow. God bless. Be safe. Drive safe.
All right.